Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining me and thank you for your continued support. Right, so there's an article going around about how Keir Starmer wanted to try and stop a report being released by the BBC's news editor talking about how much extra money Sue Gray was going to get compared to Keir Starmer. It was something like £3,000 more than the Prime Minister was going to get. And obviously he didn't want this to get out, and he asked one of his officers to speak to the BBC and to try and tell them in not some uncertain terms that this article shouldn't be published. Now eventually it was published, and so that that there was a good thing in that situation, but my concern is the fact that the BBC were approached by the government, were approached by Keir Starmer. Now, I'm sure they do it to other news outlets as well. I'm sure it's not just the BBC. But to do it to the BBC seems to me a bit of a conflict of interest here. Now, of course, they didn't order the BBC not to publish it. But what would have happened if they had? What would have happened if they'd have said, well, don't publish this article? Would the BBC feel beholden to the government? Because obviously the government talk about the charter, they talk about how much the BBC is going to get in terms of the BBC licence fee, whether they can put it up or not. And so I'm wondering whether the government has a bit of a hold over the BBC. And of course we know that the BBC aren't impartial, even though they claim to be. So this, I think, is another reason why the BBC should not be funded by the licence fee, because it involves the government, and I think they shouldn't have any kind of connection between the government and the BBC. It should be that the BBC should either be privately done through advertising or something like that, same as every other company, or through subscription, something like that. That's why I feel that the TV licence is not a good idea for the BBC, along with many other reasons. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you surprised that the government spoke to the BBC to try and persuade them not to publish this? And do you think that the BBC is too connected to the government to actually make anything impartial in terms of what they say? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe if you've got this far, and I will see you in the next one.